Global leaders come together in Nashville for the National Electric Rural Cooperative Meeting. We sit down with the organization's CEOs for the latest innovations, trends powering the industry. Plus, healthy, wholesome, and affordable. Meet Texas farmers dedicated to growing products while educating consumers on how their food is made. Good Monday morning, and thanks for joining us on Market Day Report. I'm Christina Loren. America's not-for-profit rural electric cooperatives are dedicated to providing safe, reliable, and affordable energy to more than 56% of the nation. NRECA leaders are currently in Nashville for the association's 2018 annual meeting. Joining us now is the Kentucky Association of Electric Cooperatives President and CEO Chris Perry, along with Ohio's Electric Cooperatives President and CEO Patrick O'Loughlin. Thank you so much for joining us, gentlemen. And for those who are unfamiliar, tell us about electric cooperatives and who they serve.
Sure, Christina. Electric cooperatives, there's about 900 of us across the United States. And as you said, we serve more than half of the land area of the country and about 12% of the people. We're in less populated parts of the country. They're not for profit. They are locally owned and controlled by their members who purchase electricity and fund the cooperative's capital structure by the purchase of electricity.
And you're bringing power to the rural areas, which wasn't always available, especially when this country first started out and when electricity became available.
It traces back nearly 80 years ago to the New Deal. That's when nobody wanted to go to these rural areas to serve energy. So farmers, business people got together and said, we need that out in our areas as well. So that's what we did. We came together and started building lines. You know, it's very interesting, though, for cooperatives, we're about 6 to 8 customers per mile out in rural areas. Where here in big cities such as Nashville, it's upwards of 30 to 40 customers per mile. So we're doing a lot with a lot less customers.
You know, and you're helping out our audience, rural America, and so I'm sure they're appreciative for what you do. Now, we often hear about an energy mix and power generation. What's the country's current mix, and does that differ in your individual states?
Well, it does differ as you go across the country regionally, but cooperatives have always been for all of the above, whatever makes the most sense. We have a lot of coal in this part of the country, and that's still a predominant source of energy here, but natural gas is growing, as are renewable energy resources, too.
Okay.
Well, if you look back on it, just not long ago, coal was the leading resource that we used in this country, over 50% not long ago, but the innovations in fracking technologies with natural gas has almost switched that to where natural gas is the main supplier now of energy in the United States.
Talk about where does the power come predominantly in your individual states, because it's different.
Yeah, so across the country, as Chris said, about a third of our electricity comes from coal today, about a third of it comes from natural gas, and the rest of it comes from other things, hydro and renewable resources and nuclear. But in Ohio and Kentucky as well, coal is still a predominant source. Yeah, and we've spent a lot of money putting in environmental controls to clean it up so that the coal plants we have today are cleaner than they've ever been.
You know, that's great, because environmentalists are still always, you know, hooping and hollering about the bad parts about coal. Talk about how that has changed.
Well, this traces back a number of years ago, but many of our utilities across the country, we've been reducing emissions dramatically. You know, they're down on nearly 90%. If you remember back in the 70s, the sulfur dioxide and acid rain discussions that were going on.
Right.
Well, utilities have taken that on, and we've reduced it nearly 90%. Sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide, even the carbon dioxide emissions that you hear about with the climate change issue, they're down dramatically from where they were.
I wonder why you don't hear more about that in the mainstream media, because that's huge. I mean, that's of high importance, especially to this day and age when everybody's so environmentally conscious, it seems.
It's a good news story, really.
Yeah,
I mean, it's cost money, it's taken us time to do it, but the technology's there today where we can make electricity cleaner than it's ever been, and we do.
And speaking of which, let's talk a little bit about renewable energy, because that too is expanding in both of your states.
Yeah, renewables are an important part of the mix. You know, as Pat said, all of the above is where we need to go. I mean, to provide for our industries, our businesses, our schools, our farmers, we need all these resources available to keep it affordable and reliable. That's what we do. But in Kentucky, for example, we just installed a significant solar plant, which was 60 acres, 32,000 panels that were put just outside of Lexington, Kentucky, but it's only 9 megawatts. Now, let me put that in perspective. That's a lot of homes, but one of our power plants is nearly 1,000 megawatts on about the same footprint. So if you kind of look at the math there, we'd have to fill up Kentucky with solar panels to have the same mix. Now, That's not to say that we don't want to investigate and do that to keep prices affordable, but there still needs to be some common sense of where we go, and all of the above is where we're looking to be.
How about Ohio? You always talk about feasibility when it comes to energy. Would you say it's a feasible state for more solar panels?
So more and more. The fastest growing part of the energy mix is wind and solar today, and that's going to continue probably for a while to come. But anybody that lives in Ohio or anywhere in the Midwest knows, we have days where the sun doesn't shine much. We have days where the wind doesn't blow much, and people use electricity when they want it, right? And so we've learned how to mix that in, and I think today, without big battery storage on a scale that can really help us, it's somewhat limiting as to how much wind and solar will be able to contribute. Now, they're working on batteries, and if that comes to be, then that will allow that to grow even further.
Excellent. Okay, and we were talking about discovering new sources of natural gas, for example. Talk a little bit about how that has changed.
Well, the technology is amazing. It's called fracking, and what they do is they go underground, and they're able to discover gas and oil out of places that previously they didn't think they could do. So it's really resulted in this, where the United States has become an oil leader once again in the country or in the world, as well as in natural gas, and it's what's really helping us keep energy prices affordable right now. This abundance of natural gas that is coming into the market.
10 years ago, natural gas, we couldn't count on it because it was too expensive and we didn't know if we could get enough of it.
Right.
It was $14 for a million BTUs of natural gas 10 years ago. Today, it's like $3, $4, and people think it'll be that for the foreseeable future because of the resources that have been unlocked by new technologies in fracking and shale gas.
It's funny how things change. I took an economics of energy course, and I was told at the time that oil prices, natural gas prices were going to skyrocket because we had discovered all the known sources. But boy, has that changed, huh?
Yeah, it sure has.
Well, that was the belief. If you go back to the early 2000s, as utilities, we were very concerned of what the next sources of generation would be. And as he said, some of those winter months, natural gas, $14. 7 times higher than what it is now. So it's completely changed, and we don't foresee that changing for a little while.
And here's the big difference about cooperatives. Since we're consumer-owned, what really matters is it affordable? So, another utility that's owned by investors might say, well, if electricity costs more, it costs more. As long as we're making money, that's fine. Well, it's not so fine when you're owned by the consumers that are buying your product, and that's who controls our cooperatives.
Okay, well, enlightening conversation. Really enjoyed talking to both of you gentlemen. Chris Perry and Patrick O'Loughlin with the National Rural Electric Co-op. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the convention here in Nashville, and thanks for doing what you do for our rural residents out there. All right.
Thanks for having us here today.
Happy to have you here. Be sure to stay with us as we sit down with more National Rural Electric CEOs throughout the day. Our next half hour, we're going to be focusing on economic development and mutual aid. Stay with us. Meteorologist Tim Ross is up next with your forecast. We will be right back after this.